Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to my first video of a book a week. I'm very excited for this video. I'm going to talk about the book that I read, which I told you last week, last Sunday. Here I am on Sunday. I was going to read Rich Dad Poor Dad. So I've got the book here. Let me show it right there, Rich Dad Poor Dad. So let's go into it because I have to be quick with this. I have to teach you guys within 10 minutes about this book. First of all, I want to talk about Rich Dad Poor Dad. So, what is it? Robert Kiyosaki, born in 1947, had a poor dad, which was his father who worked for the government, had a decent job, went to college, actually very decent salary, and he was really a leader in the government. And then he had his rich dad, which was the father of his best friend Mike. And Kiyosaki wanted to get rich, so he asked his dad how he could make money. Then he said, "Well, if you really want to know how to make money, you should go to Mike's dad because he's rich." And Mike's dad at the time, he had 150 employees with several businesses. Um, and so then what his rich dad told him, he said, "Look, if you want to make money, sure, you can work for me in one of my convenience stores," and he would get 10 cents an hour. He said, "It doesn't make sense." He said, "Well, you want to get rich, right?" So then Kiyosaki said, he was only 9 back then. He said, "Okay, fine, I'll do it." So then he worked for 3 weeks. Then he told Mike, "I'm gonna quit because I just make 10 cents an hour to work on the fucking weekend. I don't want to do this." So then he quit, and then Rich Dad told him, "Yeah, I knew that you would say this." And then Rich Dad told him, like, "Look, the difference between the rich and the middle class and the poor is that the rich don't work for money. They don't focus on the emotion of fear of not having enough money and greed to just want more." He said, if you don't work for money, you will let your mind think creatively, and you will be able to think of a creative way how to make money. So you won't let your mind get led by this. Now, the second chapter is talking about how to become financially literate. Virtually, what it comes down to is that he's talking about the difference between assets and liabilities. Assets are things assets that put money into your pocket. Liabilities put money out of your pocket. He says that the poor and the middle class believe that a house where they have a mortgage on is an asset, but it's not, because it puts money out of your pocket, not into your pocket. So that is what he's talking about, and that is really what he means, what the entire concept is of that chapter. And I gotta make this 10-minute, guys, but still, this is what it comes down to, and this is what you'll learn from it, okay? Trust me. So the third chapter, he's talking about mind your own business. And what he means by this is that as soon as you have a daytime job as an employee, or you might be a salesperson, you might have your own business. He said, even though that you have your working day job, how you make money, you should mind your own business, meaning that you should work to acquire assets. You should work for assets, because assets put money into your pocket, and that will give you the freedom that is actually wealth. So he says there's a piece of real estate that you can rent out. Maybe you could still have a mortgage on it, but you acquire more rent every month and you pay for it for your mortgage every month. You can have stocks that pay you a dividend. You can have bonds that pay you an interest. You can have intellectual properties like maybe a song that gives you a royalty. So these are real assets. That's what he also was talking about. And he's saying that it's important to acquire assets that you love. So if you love a certain business, that is your asset. If you love real estate, you should acquire assets. And real estate is the asset that Kiyosaki is really specialized in. So the next chapter, chapter 4, is talking about the history of taxes and the difference between, the way that the rich and the poor and the middle class look at taxes. So what he's saying is that employees, when you're an employee, you earn, pay taxes, and you spend. But he said the rich have corporations. And when you have a corporation, you earn, spend, and then you pay taxes. So he said this is very important to understand that the way that taxes work, to make sure that you don't get taxed much. Now, I think that I'm sure that this differs per country. So when you start to create a business or whatever, you should look, or even if you're just an employee but you want to acquire assets, you should look like what's the best way to pay taxes. But he says that the best way to pay the lowest amount of taxes. But he says that it's important to hire the right attorneys, because he says it's very expensive to not know the law. So he's given an example that he started a corporation to invest in a real estate while he was having a sales job at Xerox, and he had a sales job because he got paid a commission, higher salary than at a normal job. And within 3 years, he could buy his own Porsche. He was making more money than he was making from a sales job just because of this corporation with virtually no taxes, very low taxes. So you guys get into that when you really go mind your own business. So chapter 5 is talking about the rich invent money, and what he's talking about is that the rich don't have a fear to fail. They see opportunity, and that is the way that they create money. He's given an example that in the early 1990s, the economy of Phoenix was very bad, and he saw property for sale for 20 grand, and he knew that it was worth 75 grand. So what he did is he went to a friend of his. He lent 2 grand of his friend. He paid $200 to lend this money from his friend. 10% pay down at the mortgage. As soon as he was the owner of the house, took 5 hours to fix everything legally. He ran an ad. Within minutes, he sold the house. Guess what? For 60 grand. He put an ad, $75,000 house for sale for 60 fucking $1,000, and he sold it. He made 40 fucking grand in 5 hours. So the rich invent money, right? So they see opportunity and they fucking get it, okay? And that's the difference, because the poor and the middle class, they get too much fear. They're like, no, I just have to get a job, safe, secure job, have that. No, see an opportunity, get it. That's real mindset of rich people. Now, going into the last chapter, you guys, is talking about that the rich work to learn and they don't work for money. So, what he's saying is that you have to acquire a certain amount of skills to be able to get rich, right? And to get what you want, really. So, if you would want to start a business, it's important to learn leadership. He went to the Marines to learn about leadership. When he got that, he left. He had to learn to sell, to be able to persuade, to convince people. So he got a job at Xerox to become a salesman, right? So he did that to learn something. When he learned something, he went to the next job to learn the other thing that he had to learn. I'm saying the word learn too much. Learn. Anyway, so he then in 1977 started his first business, and he learned everything that he had to learn. And ever since he was has been doing a business internationally. So that is also a very important part of the book. Now, you guys, we're going to talk about how to implement this. So first of all, the first chapter of that the rich don't work for money. How can you implement this? Well, it's just a way to look at your job. Don't worry too much about fear of not having not having enough money, and greed to just want more in your job. You just have to make sure that you focus on the bigger picture, and that you just take a step back and look like, okay, what could I do, right? Now, the second chapter, how you can implement it, is just virtually to know the difference between assets and liabilities. Assets put money into your pocket, liabilities don't. Now, third chapter, mind your own business. How you can implement that is really fucking mind your own business. Make sure that you acquire assets, and not liabilities, assets that you love, that you know. Invest in it. They put money into your pocket, because that's what a real asset is, and keep on building that. Okay, so then the next chapter, chapter 4, is the history of taxes. Now, what you can implement, how you can implement that is really to get to know taxes, get to know how this works, and start a corporation so that you pay less taxes with of the business that you're starting. Because you could have a day job and then next to it have a company that does real estate, right? So that just puts money in your pocket. So then the next chapter, The Rich Invent Money, well, it's about seeing opportunities. I think it's kind of similar with the first chapter, though, in my opinion, but it kind of has similarities, but still, it's a good way to emphasize that you have to see opportunity and you can create money yourself. You can invent money yourself, see an opportunity and go for it. And he emphasizes a lot in that chapter because I read it about the fear. You should not have the fear of failure or whatever. You should have the balls really to just see an opportunity, go for it, because the real rich, they invent fucking money. Okay, last chapter. Um, I don't know. I mean, how you can implement it. It's just about your own life. What are you doing right now? What job can you get to learn what you want, where you want to go? So, if you already have a goal for yourself, maybe you want to be an entrepreneur and you know in what business or you don't know, look what skill set you need and make sure you get a job where you learn that. When you learn that, go get another job, okay? So that is how you can implement that. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Um, and this was my video. I should keep it within 10 minutes. I hope that I was able to do that because it's my first video. You guys, Rich Dad Poor Dad, I mean, get the book. It's a great book because this is really what you can learn from it, because that's really what I'm trying to do, like make a video, 10-minute video ish, to teach you guys what's in the book so you don't have to read it like I do. I read a lot. I read it in a week, actually a bit less, but make sure you get the book if you think it's interesting, because there's a lot more into it, but this is what you can really derive from it, right? Again, thank you guys so much for watching and see you next Sunday.